Good morning, race fans. I'm John, and this is In the Marbles. I thought I would give you let's say, brief primer on the new point system and the postseason for NASCAR season 2026. If you haven't been paying attention, everything's been overhauled and we have returned to the chase. It's a little bit modified. And I want to run over the points so you're aware from the beginning of the season what everything means and how this works together because it's simplified from the elimination years. And we basically, let's say, goose the points a little bit so winning means more now that winning you're in is done. Let's get into it. So I pulled up Google Gemini and I said, hey, give me an overview of the point system in the chase for the new season because I thought it would be good to get kind of a neutral AI generated evaluation or summary of what the new points system is. So let's get into it. NASCAR has officially overhauled its championship structure for the 2026 season, moving away from the elimination style playoffs used since 2014 and returning to a modified version of the chase. The new system prioritizes season long consistency, and that is a big deal. This is what a lot of us longtime fans have been pushing for because the elimination system kind of allowed for the non-dominant driver from the season to win the championship, and it made the champion feel less authentic or less real than the guy who was dominant all season getting to the end and pointing his way to the championship. So the old way of winning you're in kind of allowed somebody to do one good race during the regular season and then come on strong in the postseason and become champion. And that, as I said, that kind of rings hollow for a lot of fans. So let's continue. Increasing the reward for individual race wins. Yes, that was the key. The point system. The most significant change to the standard points per race is the massive boost for a victory. Race win now worth 55 points, up from 40. Second place remains at 35 points. So that 20-point gap is significant. It makes winning much more important. It gives you that much more incentive to win. And now that winning you're in is gone, which I think is a huge, huge improvement. It basically says, look, winning and consistency is more important than that one-off win. So consistency for the whole season, and I think that's huge. Let's keep going. Other positions. Points for third through 40th remain the same. Sliding scale as previous years. Third is 34, fourth is 33, and so on. Stage points remain unchanged. 10 points for a stage win, down to 1 point for 10th place. And fastest lap gets a bonus point. Qualifications. No more winning you're in. The era of a single fluke win guaranteeing a postseason spot is over. Points only qualifying for the chase is now based on strictly on. Let me say that one again. Qualifying for the chase is now based strictly on total points scored during the 26 race regular season. Field size, the top 16 drivers in points will advance to the chase. And I think this may be the best change in my mind is the fluke of winning one race and then having a complete garbage rest of the year and then you're into the postseason. That just didn't ring true for most fans. And if you noticed on Sunday after the Daytona 500, they were talking about the champion of the Daytona 500, not the postseason implications, not, oh, he's into the playoffs, he's won. No, it's, oh, he's got good points. He's the champion of the Daytona 500. So Tyler Reddick is off to a good start. So again, I think that reorients everything correctly to a longer season goal. And the other thing is I want to kind of analogize the chase to resetting the field after a caution. You're basically condensing everybody back together, and then P1, P2, P3, P4 definitely have an advantage over people later in the field. So being up front is going to be an advantage, just like on a restart. So I do think that it basically says your whole season's work is important, and you need to be cognizant of pointing your way into the postseason from the jump, from that first green flag at Daytona. You have to be thinking about making the points. And so I think that's huge. And we even saw Denny Hamlin on Actions Detrimental yesterday talk about how he knows that by the fourth or fifth race, if he is not doing well in points, he's really behind the eight ball. So I do think this orients the drivers again, instead of being risky and trying to get that one win, now they have to be consistent and performing the whole season, which for the older fans, especially people like Mark Martin, who, older driver, grew up and did all this stuff. I was watching Mark Martin back in the day. So I love seeing him engaged and talking about how this makes the rest of the season, the whole season, matter more. And the postseason, the chase. My analogy, I think, is really good. I think it is like resetting the field for a restart for the final 10 races. You kind of bunch everybody back up together. But if you're in P1, P2, P3, P4, like I said, you're basically at the front of the pack and you have that advantage because you're so much closer to um, the end goal of winning that championship. So let me continue. The chase overview postseason. Once the regular season concludes, the field is reset for a 10 race shootout. Now, 9 races for O'Reilly, 7 races for trucks. Um, no eliminations. The most dramatic shift is the removal of round of 12, round of 8, etc. All 16 qualifying drivers compete for the title across all 10 final races. There is no winner take all final race. The driver with the most points after the season finale at Homestead, Miami is the champion. And I think that's key because when you had that sort of one race winner take all, you had 4 drivers vying for the championship, you could have somebody who had significantly lower points and wins and top fives and top tens be crowned the champion. And that just doesn't feel right. And I'm going to use last year's Xfinity, now the O'Reilly series, as an example. And I don't want to pick on Jesse Love. It's just that the situation for him is kind of a perfect example. Because I do think Jesse Love is a phenomenal driver, big fan. And so he won the Daytona 500 last year and then had a solid rest of the season, but he didn't win any races until the final race of the year and was crowned champion. So he won the first race of the year and the last race of the year. And the rest of the season was basically just very strong finishes, top fives, top tens. But then you look at Connor Zilisch. He had 10 wins, 20 top tens in a row. I forget how many top fives in a row. So his body of work for the whole season was significantly better than Jesse Love's. And again, I don't want to discount Jesse Love. He won under the rules of the system when that was the system. So he is the legit champion. But the problem is, it's the smell test, it's the eyeball test, it's the I watched Connor Zilisch all year dominate 10 wins, 20 top tens in a row. I forget how many top fives in a row. I already said this. But that was a dominant performance that you would expect to be crowned the champion based on the body of work from the whole season. But because of the structure of the postseason, it basically you get to that final race, and if you make it there, the rest of the season is erased. It's gone. And that I think is the thing that the fans were reacting to, going, wait a second. You mean this one race, no matter what you did for the rest of the season, this is the only race that actually matters. So your goal is to get to this race, no matter what your body of work is. And then you're crowned the champion if you win. And that just didn't feel right. That's why I think this 10 race chase with no eliminations, and you now have the top 16 competing the whole time, I think that's going to come off as more fair. It's also going to effectively be an entire season's worth of work working toward that final championship. So I do think that is important to take into account that now the whole season matters and you do not erase the entire body of work for a single final race. I think, unfortunately, the mindset of the NASCAR um, leadership was, let's compare ourselves to the Super Bowl. We want that Super Bowl moment. The problem is you should have been comparing yourself to something more like baseball, hockey, or basketball, where you take a best of 7 series, because you could have that fluke day where, you know, when I was growing up, it was Lakers and Pistons and Celtics and Bulls. Those were the 4 teams that were dominant. And you could have one night where the Bulls played horribly and the Pistons played amazing. And then the rest of that series, either the Pistons dominated or the Bulls dominated. And that was the thing. You just had to see the whole body of work. And that's why best of seven works better for things like basketball, baseball, hockey, and I think racing should be have a sample size that's more in line with something like that, and that's why a 10 race sample size is better than a single race winner take all, because you can have that one great race, but you could have nine garbage races inside of that. So this is what it's correcting for. It's enlarging the sample size so we get better data and better championship that everybody feels, yes, you crowned the correct person. Now, I did see Denny Hamlin also say that he thinks that basically at the cutoff at the beginning of the chase, that whoever's in that top three is probably going to win the championship because they've shown that consistency of work through the entire season. Now, I might expand that to like the top five, but it just all depends on how tightly packed they are when we get to the chase. And I think that's what makes this a little more exciting, is that there is that ability for that fifth place guy to come up, have a great chase, and point his way ahead of whoever came in first. And that's why moving to 55 points for the win is also clutch. So you got 55 points for the win, and then you could also get 10 points for the stage win, or 20 points for stage wins, depending, or 30 points for stage win if it's the Coke 600. So what can I say? I think that this is an improvement overall, and I'm really excited. So let's keep going. The points reset and seeding. While the points are reset to give the 16 drivers a clean slate, those who perform better in the regular season received a staggered starting advantage. The champion starts with 2100, second place 2075, third place 3065, and then it keeps decreasing by 5 points all the way down to 2000 for 16. And this is why I kind of referenced it as P1, P2, P3, P4, because it's just like a restart. You have an advantage if you're in that front row. You're in the front row starting with 2100 or 2075, depending on if you're the pole or the second. So I think that's a good analogy. Think of this as resetting the field like a restart mid race. So I do think that doesn't discount the body of work that the previous 26 races were. What it does is it tightens the field and makes it, as I said, I think the best analogy is a restart. So let's keep going. Note, playoff points, the bonus points banked from stage wins and race wins during the season have been abolished. The only bonus is the predetermined seeding points listed above. Yeah, no more playoff points, no more like extra stuff that like gets into the postseason. No, it's strictly your body of points for the 26 race regular season, where you end there, and then they reset to 2100, 2075, 2065, and so on. So I think the simplicity of the system is actually a benefit. It is no longer weirdly complicated. You're no longer going to have some reckless behavior of, look, I just need to win this one race and then I'm in the postseason. So I'm going to wreck the field because I can, just to go for that win. So I think this hopefully takes a little bit of the rambunctiousness out of the system and makes people think more about consistency. Um, so yeah, summary of key differences. No more complex math to see who survives in elimination round. A driver must be good for all 10 postseason races, not just survive in advance. Horsepower. As a side note for 2026, Cup cars will now run 750 horsepower at short tracks and road courses to improve the racing product. So overall, yeah, that one didn't make it. I can't scroll down far enough on that one. Sorry, guys. But overall, I do think that this point system is a huge, huge upgrade. But let's actually look at the points. So congratulations to Tyler Reddick on winning the Daytona 500. You are starting the season in a really, really good position. And let me see if I can get the points to show up, because I thought I had them. That's race results. Standings. That's what I was looking for. All right. So scroll up. We got Tyler Reddick there with 58. If I scrunch that up, does that look better for you guys? All right. With 58. And then Joey Logano in second with 46, Chase Elliott 43, Zane Smith 41, Ricky Stenhouse 39, Brad Keselowski 39, Chris Buescher 39, Bubba Wallace 37, Carson Hocevar 36, and Ryan Blaney 36. So that's the top 10 right there. And then Riley Herbst 35, Daniel Suarez 35, Josh Berry 33, Kyle Busch 29, Kyle Larson 29, and Noah Gragson 27. That is the top 16 right now after the first race. But what is wild is when you look at some of the perennial all-stars. Got William Byron at number 18 with 25. You've got Ross Chastain, number 23 with 17. I'm a fan of Ryan Preece. He's got 17 as well in 24th position. Shane Van Gisbergen, 28 with 13. Austin Cindric, 29th with 13. Christopher Bell, 9 points, 31st position. Austin Dillon, 9 points, 32nd position. Denny Hamlin, 8 points, 33. So he's already in a little bit of a hole after this first race. We'll see how it plays out at Atlanta and afterwards, but he's got to do some work. Same thing with Connor Zilic at 5 points, Todd Gilliland at 4 points, Alex Bowman at 4 points, Chase Briscoe at 2 points, and BJ McLeod at one. And I feel bad for BJ McLeod. It sounds like he actually had the hub of his wheel or something in that rear suspension just break and spin him out right away. And that's just unfair to a guy. So I feel bad for him in the 500, but it sounds like he's going to be doing a few more races. So I think that's pretty cool. But all right, thought this was a good quick overview for you guys to see the new point system if you weren't following as closely as I was. And let me know if you have any questions. Please like and subscribe and leave any questions or comments below if you have any more questions about the new point system, the chase, or anything like that. Talk to you soon.